Today, Vermonters are heading back to work. The governor implementing a plan of action to re-employ workers affected by the COVID-19 pandemic.
All right, could the Green Mountain State be a model for the rest of the country?
Joining us now with what this will look like, Vermont State Senator Corey Parent. Good morning, sir. Thanks for coming on this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right, so explain what's happening today. Who's going back to work, and what are some of the restrictions being put in place to make sure that these folks stay safe?
Sure. Our Governor Phil Scott announced on Friday that after about 12 days of seeing positive results on our new COVID cases, that we'd start to get some folks back to work, including construction workers who can go back with crews of no more than 2 people. When they're traveling to their job site, they have to be able to be in a vehicle, again, of no more than 2 people and keep certain safety measures in place, including wearing masks and proper PPE. That we're all starting to return folks to work who can work in an office setting with 1 or 2 people present, including town clerks, municipal employees, lawyers, real estate agents, really starting to get the service economy going again, and the construction workers out there. Retail is allowed to start to go back to work in a limited fashion, especially to allow folks to place orders online or call in for pickup and curbside. That had been on hold for a few weeks. So just the beginnings of getting things going, but starting to loosen up those restrictions and making sure folks can start to return to work safely.
Yeah, this is a very tempered phase 1. I mean, when you look at the numbers of employees that can go back to work, a construction crew of 2 people, are there a lot of nerves, you think, in the governor's office about, the fear of doing something too drastic that might cause a spike to come up?
Absolutely. I think, across the country, the last thing we want to do is, we've all taken 3-4 weeks off here. The last thing we want to do is push people back to work as quick as possible and have a relapse of everything and having to pull back again. I think doing it in an orderly manner and a cautious manner will set us up for more long-term success.
Yeah, there are protests taking place across the country, one in Pennsylvania today, because people do want to get back to work. But governors in those states are saying, we just don't have the hospital space. We just don't have the tests right now. What's the situation like in Vermont that makes you confident that even if you see a little bit of a spike, that things will be okay?
Yeah, so again, I mentioned, for the last 12 days, 2 weeks now, we've seen consistent decline in new cases daily. Our hospitals, we've set up a lot of field hospitals and capacity across the state really set up, and we're seeing stabilization there. We're not seeing increases in need. So I think, again, cautiously putting people back to work and monitoring it for the next week to 10 days before we put more people back to work will allow us to, gradually get there, but make sure that hospitals have the resources they need if there is any kind of increase in activity.
Yeah.
Sure. Let's look at some of the reopening restrictions here for business in Vermont. Employees with any COVID-19 symptoms may not work. Employees have to stay 6 feet apart, wear the face coverings. They have to have access to soap and water and hand sanitizer, and no more than 2 people in a work vehicle at a time. And then I want to talk about unemployment there for a second, because you guys have been inundated with people filing for unemployment, and it's backlogged the system. People desperately need the money, and you guys have a plan in place to give $1,200 to everybody that's backlogged. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so actually they're going out today, the governor and the state treasurer. We have a very hands-on governor, and Phil Scott met yesterday and printed off checks for $1,200 for folks who'd filed and just haven't been able to get through the IT system, if you will, and get any benefits. Some of these folks, and I hear from them every day, haven't had a paycheck for 3 going on 4 weeks. And so to be able to give them a little bit of relief and then, basically borrow the money from the UI fund while we're figuring out the technology piece and true up everything in a few weeks. But we know how important it is just to get some money into people's pockets. They have rent and mortgages due. They have car payments due. They got to pay their bills. And we're all very sensitive to that. And when it became clear we weren't going to be able to meet those needs late last week, the governor made the decision to issue those checks. And like I said, we'll true them up in the coming days and weeks to real payments. It's not an extra benefit, but it's just making sure we can get through these technological challenges in a time when so many people are in need.
Absolutely. Yeah, it seems like a pretty cautious, carefully crafted plan. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be very happy to wake up to the sound of their alarm clock this morning. Sir, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good day.